Hello everyone, I am Bradley Sward, Associate Professor of Computer and Information Science at the College of DuPage in Glen Ellen, Illinois. This video today is going to take a look at one of your activity problems, the C++ Object-Oriented Programming Guessing. So at this point you've probably looked through it, you've probably completed it, but let me go through and show you how I would go about doing it as if I was showing you this in a classroom setting. So again, guess the number. I'm just going to pick up, we're not keeping track of how many guesses you make. We're just basically going, oh, your guess is higher, or oh, your guess is lower, until you eventually get it. And you're allowed to tell the computer how large of a number you want the thing to go to. So again, this is the starter, this is the runner, this is the template file over here. And if I go to try to build this, I get all sorts of errors because there's no guessing game.h, there's no guessing game defined for this object type, and so forth and so on. And of course, that's all of what Chapter 13 is all about, just taking what we learned in previous chapter, Chapter 11, when it comes to structures, and turning a structure into a class. And so I'm just going to go over here and start, filling in our pieces following the instructions that I have listed here. So in my classroom, I have you guys for the majors, CIS majors, I have you guys create two different files, a header a .h file and a .cpp file. And so the h file is going to get guessinggame.h, and this is where the header is going to go. And so we're saying the class is going to be called guessinggame, and right away, this clears up a couple errors over here. This gets, the include file now exists. It can be found in the project, and now this turns light blue because now it can be found, at least the class, but there's nothing in there, and that's why everything else is going to start causing problems. We're going to have brand new errors because we don't have any of these functions defined. We don't have a constructor defined. We don't have any of the member functions, member variables, anything else that we need to get the job. So now I like to always set up the public and the private stuff here to get that going. And so I like to put the public before the private. I guess maybe it was beaten into me this way out in the real world, is because when you're working with people's code day in and day out, you generally care about what the public API is. I don't necessarily care about how it works. I do care if something's broken, or if I need to understand how it's working. So if I use inheritance and polymorphism, how can I override that behavior? But I only need to do that 10% of the time. Generally I'm using the class 90% of the time, and I don't care how it works. So put public stuff before privates. So it says a private integer member variable which maintains the target guess value. I'll just call it target guess value. It's a long variable name, but for this, it'll do. Okay, so that I have my member variable in here, and now I have a constructor, guessing game. The constructor always gets the same name as the class type. It never returns anything, and it's up to you if you want to make it a default or whatnot generally, but this problem says that it takes one parameter, the largest, I can spell, the largest target guess, target guess value. Okay, there we go. And so that's my public constructor, and a public member function called makeGuess with one integer parameter. Let me just say makeGuess, and then we'll say what the guess is. That is the input, and then let me just go over here real quick, and returns an integer value relating to the guess being lower, higher, or equal. So it says return an int. It doesn't say return a Boolean, which you might think yes or no, but we need to return less than, greater than, or not equal, or equal to. So then coming back here, this fixes this. I don't see any problems. And then if I do rebuild this, you can see now all the compiler errors are good. There's gone. I mean, there's no more compiler errors. Everything has compiled, yet the link stage is now unresolved. And so again, every file gets compiled one by one by one. The compiler goes through and goes, oh, syntactically you're good. Syntactically you're good. But what happens is, and then it goes, okay, every file individually is good. But when it comes down to the linker stage, think about what that means. Link, combine, right? Link things together. It can't find any of the actual implementations of these functions. That's why it's screaming out in green squiggly here, because it cannot find it, is not defined yet. But again, from a compile standpoint, that doesn't matter. This just says, trust me, I'll put it somewhere in my project. I'll put this somewhere in my project. And then this is saying, oh, I'm going to use make guess. And then it's going to say, oh, I promise you I'm going to use it, but you never do. So that's where linker errors come from. It's basically, either you've duplicated, you've either put a function more than once inside of all your files, or it can't find it at all. But this is pretty much the entirety of the .h file. And so now now we just have to go in and fill in the guessinggame.cpp following the rules here, and we can call it a day. And so what I like to do, at least in Visual Studio, is I like to highlight, right-click, Quick Actions and Refactoring, Create Declaration / Definition, and that sets up the CPP file, and it sets up the skeleton outline for those functions. And now the green squiggly go away, and now this will run. It won't run properly, but it will build, it will link. There we go. Everything is succeeded. I could run this. It's probably an infinite loop, so I don't want to do that right now. But it can run if I wanted to do so. So now, okay, so now coming back around here, let's fill in what we see here. The constructor sets the target guess value member variable to a random number in the range of 1 to whatever, inclusive on both ends. And so what that means is, and this is tricky if this is your first time using object-oriented programming, because we beat it into you guys, we don't literally, we figuratively, is that when you can only use variables that are defined inside of a block of code. And so it gets a little tricky your first couple times out, because I'm going to be using a variable that is not even in here. I'm just going to target guess value, right? But it's defined in the .h file. It's defined right here. It's declared right here. You can use this thing because it is part of you. It is part of this class. So it's tricky, because I'm like target guess value equals, and just for the moment here, I'll just say largest blah, blah, blah here. And just to say, okay, I'm setting this one thing equal to another. And again, this thing is a member variable. This is the parameter that's passed in, so it's a little tricky sometimes. And when we get to inheritance and polymorphism, this thing might be 5 or 6 classes up the chain. It's not even guaranteed to be in the same class structure. If you have a parent, then a parent, then a parent, it could be 3, 4, 5 levels up. So you just have to watch out for that kind of thing. Okay, so this is the largest value, and what I wanted to do is I have to take this and randomize it. And this is, so the rand function, and this thing's broken because I need to include C standard lib. You just have to get used to where all the libraries are. And rand is found in C standard library. And so this function will just go ahead and give me a random number here. It returns an integer. It returns a random number between 0 and whatever value, 30,000. I forget exactly how big the number is. Maybe it's 2 billion or 4 billion or something like that. And then I can take that value and I can use the modulus operator with my largest target guess value. So, so this is going to give me, because of the way modulus works, this is going to give me a value between 0 and largest target guess value minus 1. So like if I say, give me something 10, this will give me 0 to 9. And that's why I'm adding the 1 here, because I want the range to be from 1 to 10. Otherwise, this would be 0 to 9. So I just shift everything over 1 by adding the 1 to it. And so that's how I can use rand, and I can use modulus with my target value and add 1 to find the range. And this is the easiest if I'm trying to range from 1 to 10 or something like that. Okay, so the last step here is I don't have to worry about srand. Those of you I already have the srand right here. You always, 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 listen to me right now, anyone, this will help you on an exam. You always use srand and the first line of code in main, and you never use it ever again. Otherwise, you might run into problems where you might never sort something, all sorts of things might go wrong because of the way where you put srand and how often you reset the random number generator. Okay, excuse me. So the last step here is always make sure to use an initializer list in all C++ constructors. So as this goes, this would work, and in Java or C#, this would work as well, but in C++, whenever we go to set up all of our member variables, we do so in what we call an initializer list. And so when I go ahead and move this over, and it's almost the same, notice it's giving me errors here. Instead of equals, you just put parentheses around the thing. And so this is saying whenever I set up my constructor, and whenever I call, create an object, go ahead and set up the target guess value, which is in that H file right here. Set that up to be 1 plus rand mod blah, blah, blah. Exactly like I had it down below. This is more efficient. This is more professional. This is the way you go ahead and do things. And when we get to inheritance and polymorphism, you have to do things this way for calling the base, the parent class anyway. So why not just do things the right way? It's more efficient on top of everything else. And what I like to do here is to finish up being professional is to put like a nothing here or intentionally blank or something, because if I don't see this, I wonder if this class is incomplete. Did you finish this? Did you do it right? Yes or no? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. But when I see this, I go, okay, this person thought out what they were doing, and I'm reasonably assured that there's supposed to be nothing there. Okay? And so that will handle the constructor, because your guarantee, your contract, is when the constructor ends and you run out of here, because this gets run before the block of code. So when this gets done first and then it goes in here afterwards. But when I hit this closing curly brace, you are basically saying that every member variable inside the class is initialized to at least something valid. Or 0, or in this case 1 to 10, or whatever it is, a random number. But every member variable has to be set up like that way. Otherwise you've got garbage. And garbage in, garbage out. This is your chance to, to create a robust, perfect working object. Okay, so the make guess function, the last step here. Oops, why is it green on me? Always initialize and is uninitialized. What? Did I spell it wrong? Let me rebuild this just to make sure. Oh, it's happy. Did I get any warnings? No warnings. I don't know. That's interesting. Oh, it went away. Isn't it fun? Isn't it fun? Okay, so the final step here is this make guess function. Determine if the guess is lower than the target value, return -1. If the guess is higher, return +1. If the guess is the same, return 0. And again, no printing of any kind goes in here because the source code is handling all of that down here. Too low, too high, just right, Goldilocks kind of situation. So this is pretty simple stuff here. I say if my guess is less than the target, or the target guess value, because that's the value I care about, then I'm going to return, and I can return a -1. Otherwise, else, if my guess is greater than the target value, then I can return a +1. And if I get through both, the only thing left, if it's not less than and it's not greater than, it's got to be equal. And since I'm returning right out of this thing, I don't have to have an if, I don't have to have an else, I don't have to have anything here. I can just return a 0, call it a day. And now this should work. Everything should now work properly. Knock on proverbial fake wood here. And if I run my program, now everything should go. Oops, let me drag this over. Here we go. What is the largest possible number that I want? 100. You get to watch. So let's see. So enter your guess. I'll say 1. Too low, try again. 100. Too high, try again. So now I'll just do my high-low game stuff. 50 is too high. 25 is too low. 37 is too high. 30 is too high. 27 is too low. 28. There we go. I got it. Phew. And yes, this is the best guessing game you'll ever make, you'll ever play in your life. And so that covers everything there is to do for this problem, because I mean that's all you filled in the gaps appropriately to make the runner work as it's supposed to. So as always, if you guys have any questions, especially since you're in my class, email me, swardb@cod.edu. Great way to get a hold of me and ask me any questions related to computer programming. or you can always comment here. This is a private video, but I will see when you comment and I can answer your questions. So I'm going to be doing the other problem here in a minute, my time. What is the second problem? What is the second problem? Oh yeah, the Super Mario Maker thing. I'll be doing that in a minute here in my time, and maybe not so much in your time, but thanks for sticking it out with me. Have a great day. We'll talk to you later.